Welcome back to another edition of Interview with the Author. Today, I'm pleased to have Tara Grace O'Neill with us. She is the author of this book called Reverie. Am I pronouncing it right, Tara?
Reverie, yeah.
Reverie. How are you doing, Tara?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
No bother at all. It's good to have another Irish author on and just get people exposed to different Irish authors. Firstly, Tara, can you tell us where you are from in Ireland and maybe a bit about your backstory, about your maybe a small testimony as well?
Yeah, so like you said, my name's Tara. I'm 19 years old. I am originally from Navan, County Meath, the Royal County, and my mom is actually from Hungary. My dad is from Ireland, so kind of was raised in a two-cultured household, which was really fun. Lived in Navan my whole life, and I just recently started college. I did my Leaving Cert in the midst of a pandemic, which was really interesting, which
Oh, wow.
I'll get into later, which has something to do with my book, which is cool. And yeah, I actually grew up as a pastor's kid. My dad is a pastor and has been a pastor of many churches since I was born, basically. That's why they moved down to Navan originally after they got married, my parents. And so I was raised in church and just kind of went to Sunday school and, did all the pastor kid kind of things. But when I was around 12 or 13 and I went into secondary school in first year, I really had to decide if my faith was going to be my own or if it was just going to be something that I did because that's the household I was brought up in and that's what my parents expected me to do. And it was just at a conference that I went to. It wasn't anything incredibly like major, but I just really just said that in my heart. I just felt like that was the moment I had to decide was, did I believe in Jesus Christ as my savior, my Lord and Savior, or was that just something that I did because my parents told me that was right, or that's because that's what I heard in Sunday school. And it was just in that moment, I just asked a leader to pray for me, and that was it. But I think that like a lot of people that might have grown up in church, my story is similar probably, that it's more of a journey rather than just like a one moment experience that I was like, had this like crazy rebellion and ran away and then I came back. But instead it was just a small journey, like step by step, trusting God with more things and just going into every season of life and growing in that. And I actually just completed a year of Bible school. I kind of took a gap year between secondary school and actual university to just do a diploma in theology, which I wasn't expecting to do just because of the pandemic and everything. And so that has been incredible because I've got to ask all those hard questions, like why do I believe in what I believe? Because otherwise I would just have drifted through life just believing that because that's what I was told. So just getting to grapple with those hard questions and it's really just flourished me in this year to be able to just stand firm in my faith. Like this is what I believe because I've experienced it, not because of anything else that people have told me, but because like Jesus is made real to me in my life. And so, yeah, it's been really cool. And so I'm hoping to go on to study business, economics, sociology, and politics in Trinity in September of next year. And I'll be moving into Dublin, which is exciting. Never moved out of home before. So, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it's so important, Tara, that to make sure we understand why we believe what we believe, especially for people at a younger age. And it's great to hear your testimony and what you've been through and, making that decision for yourself. And were you all through your teenage years, were you interested in writing? Were you interested in poetry? What kind of brought about this idea to release your own poetry book?
Yeah, so it's kind of a crazy story because I loved science actually. I was like a really big nerd when I was in like first or third year. I hated English, to be honest. Like I got good grades, but I just really didn't like it, especially like the creative side of it. And around that time, around third year and just kind of exam stress, I started to develop very bad anxiety. And that resulted also in very low self-esteem. And just I just found I don't even know how it happened, to be honest. I can't even remember the first time, but I just remember kind of like almost like an instinctual going to my phone notes to just type out what I was feeling. And it was really weird because I had never really liked writing before. And so I just kind of started writing out on notes and then all of a sudden I had like 200 notes, accumulated over. And every time I'd go through something and I've needed to deal with it, kind of get it out somewhere, I just needed to get it out on like a napkin that I was in like a cafe or something. I just needed to get it out. And so these kind of culminated and I never really wanted to share it with anybody because it's super personal, and I found that like reading other poetry, other poets and other authors, just like being able to express with our words what we're feeling inside, and that can sometimes like help people to what they're going through. That's why we relate to music so much, because music is just basically poems with some melodies added onto it. And so I just kind of culminated over the years, lots and lots of poems And then I decided I'd show my English teacher for an assignment that I was doing one of these poems because it related to it. And she said it was really good. And so I was like, well, I have a lot more. Like, can I show you? And so I showed her, and she was like, this is really good. You should share this with somebody. And I was like, well, I don't know, like, how I'm going to share it. Like, I'm 15 years old. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I decided I was going to do a book. But I was like, I'll do this when I'm finished college. I'll do this when, I'm much more like, developed or whatever. And then because of the pandemic, and I had a lot more time after leaving cert, the leaving cert got cancelled. So I was like, what am I going to do? I have 2 months, can't see my friends, can't do anything. And I pulled out my folder that I had all my poetry in, and I decided to go ahead and make a book, because I don't know, like I had nothing else to do. So I just decided I would do it because I knew I was going to be busy when college came around. And so I self-published. I just learned everything along the way. I just Googled things. I looked at different like other authors that have previously self-published. I got the money that I had been saving that I earned while I was teaching piano throughout secondary school, just my little like savings, and I just kind of spent the whole thing on ordering 200 of my books, and that's kind of
Wow.
it. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
crazy.
And
Like,
and and the
at the time,
and the book here
yeah,
is again pronounced for Reverie. Is that Reverie?
Reverie.
Reverie. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's quite a visual book as well. There's
yeah,
poetry,
yeah.
but there's also photographs. Did you take the photographs yourself?
Yeah, so again, like not a photographer. I just literally got my old cheap iPhone 6 that I've had for like 5 years, and I got my little sister, who again is just my little sister, and we just took pictures outside our back garden and our estate wherever we could find, because we couldn't leave the 5 kilometer radius at that time. And yeah,
Wow.
I thought it'd be more engaging than just black and white words on a page, that it would evoke more emotion, kind of tell a story. And even if people aren't into poetry or even reading, like they could just put on a coffee table and maybe just flick through it. It's like a little magazine sort of thing. So yeah, I'd never really seen anything like it. So I kind of call it like visual poetry, if you want to call it that genre, but I haven't really
Yeah.
seen any other things
It
put out
it
there.
it
So
it kind of
this,
reminds me of a journal. Like journaling is becoming very popular,
yeah.
art journaling. So it does remind me of this. I'll just show a few examples, and there'll be a few examples on the website as well. And the name, just getting back to the name, where does this word come from, or what does it mean?
Yeah, so it's actually it's a real word, like, believe it or not. I think it's in some dictionaries, but it was used a lot in the early like the 1920s, and literally it means a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thought or a daydream. And
Okay.
I guess that's kind of for me when I was going through anxiety attacks or whatever, kind of going to that place where I just was able to get lost in a daydream for a minute and just write down something, or just go into a different place in my head to be able to calm myself down. And that when I heard that word, I just really depicted it. And yeah, that just kind of ended up being the name for the book. Just kind of fitted. So yeah.
That's great, and it's so important that we use the different creative outlets that God has given us. Whether it's photography, art, poetry. While we read the Bible and there's so much knowledge and word in it, we also have to remember there's the Psalms. And they're so important for people. And we can see that poetry has really impacted your lifestyle. Are there Christian books also that you would recommend that you have read through your time as being a Christian, and that have spoken to you?
Yeah, like books are obviously like such an important part in our Christian walk, because it helps us understand the Bible, like you were saying. Like something that was really like an author that really changed my perspective, a Christian author, was Neil T. Anderson. My dad had actually previously struggled with depression, and so when he found The Bondage Breaker and Freedom from Fear, all of these Neil T. Anderson books, he gave them to me, and it really just helped bring breakthrough. It didn't change the Bible; it brought it to life, and
Yes.
uh, it like exemplified. And I think that's what a lot of books do. A lot of Christian books, they're not trying to rewrite the Bible. They're not trying to replace the Bible. They're just trying to bring it to life, bring vibrancy to it, bring it to life. And so that when we're reading it now for ourselves, we can see it. This is what they meant. And another author that I really love is C.S. Lewis. He's a classic, of course. Everybody knows
Yes,
C.S. Lewis. And
big fan of
I've
C.S.
actually
Lewis.
uh, I've actually yet to read a proper one of his books, but I've read so many extracts and stuff. And so now that I finished college, I'm going to definitely be doing a lot of C.S. Lewis reading. And also another author that I actually ordered from Teach Solas, a little plug in there, was John Mark Comer. So Garden City, Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. So I want to get more into reading those. But yeah, just kind of, I love reading a lot of different, from lots of different centuries, you know, not just like the most modern like authors, but also from the 90s, from C.S. Lewis's time, just to kind of get a range, because it's so funny how even though times change, fashion changes, that we all go through the same things. And even in the Bible, we can see people like Dave, you know, King David struggle with depression, he struggled with anxiety, even though that's not the words he uses, that's what it is. And it's just a human condition, you know, but it just shows God's grace and God's goodness in through all of that. And everybody goes through same wrestlings, but when we kind of are able to express that, like C.S. Lewis, like me writing this poetry book, all of us, whatever we're doing, we're helping each other understand that we're not alone in this, and that God's goodness is enough to bring us past those struggles that we go through. So sharing is so important. So sorry, I'm going to go
Definitely.
off topic of the
No,
question, but
that's
yeah.
great. That's great. Yeah, you definitely, I think through the poetry that I've read in this, you know, you have definitely a gift with words, and just I encourage you to keep on using it, and we're glad to be stocking it. So if anyone wants to buy this book by Tara Grace, you can buy it here on Teach Solas. I'll put the link below. And I just want you to thank you, Tara, for being interviewed today and for sharing your thoughts, and all the best in the future.
Thank you so much.